with your host, Andrew Romanella.
When you play Battle in Mario Kart and you don't turn off any of the items, there are bananas everywhere. I mean, it's like you're losing your balloons because you're slipping on bananas left and right. Bananas everywhere.
What's going on, everybody? Hey, welcome into another edition of the Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com. We are broadcasting live on YouTube and X, and Facebook as well. I'm your host, Andrew Romanella. I got you for the next 25 or 30 minutes. It's a Tuesday, a regular Tuesday, a Rocky Tuesday. That's right. So we'll get a little bit of hockey with Rocky in here. Stay tuned 4 to 6 minutes from now because you'll have your hockey expert talking Stanley Cup Finals, with which the Florida Panthers took a 2-1 series lead last night in game number 3, dominating fashion, by the way, if I do say so myself. But that's not where we're going to start today's show, because yesterday Murray State and Duke battled out in game 3 of their super regional. Duke for a chance to go to the College World Series for the first time since 1961. And Murray State, for the first time ever, they found themselves tied at 3 in the 8th inning, and then this happened.
This is smashed to left. Going back is Albright. He's going to watch it leave. Goodbye. Home run, Luke Mastonic.
Mastonic 2 for 5 yesterday with that homer and RBI.
And the Racers regained the lead 4-3.
340 on the season. And that homer gave the Racers the lead 4-3. They went on to tack on one more, though Duke's attempt was there. This is what it looked like at the end.
Ball game. Murray State has done it. Upset in Durham. The Racers race on to Omaha.
Great line. The Racers race on to Omaha. Watch this angle of it.
Over!
Oh, man, that is awesome stuff. So the College World Series field is set. Your 8 teams are Coastal Carolina versus Arizona, game 1. Game 2, Oregon State versus Louisville. Game 3, UCLA versus the aforementioned Murray State. And game number 4, Arkansas versus LSU. For those that do not understand how the College World Series tournament works, it is a double elimination tournament. Okay, so whatever team you're rooting for right now, of those 8 that I just mentioned, to go hoist the College World Series trophy, okay, that team's got to lose twice. That tournament starts on Friday in Omaha. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking about how much fun college baseball is to watch, especially during this time of year. I would argue the energy, the excitement, the fun that exists with all of the hoopla in the fall with the college football, I believe is as mirrored with the baseball. All the fun that you see in the wintertime when we get to the college basketball postseason is equally as fun with baseball. Okay, so take some time, man, and watch this 8-team College World Series in Omaha starting this weekend. Watch it. Because if you haven't watched the regionals or the supers or even any part of the 60-game regular season, you're missing out, especially if you are a college sports fan. If you're someone that tells me they love college football and they love college basketball, watch college baseball because it is equally, if not more, entertaining. Okay? 8-team College World Series field set. Congratulations to Murray State, their first time in the College World Series, a number 4 seed when they entered the tournament in their regional, a multitude of number 4 seeds in this College World Series. We're going to try, okay, to the best of our ability to get the pitching coach at Murray State on, Steve Adkins. I had the opportunity to be with Steve for a quick minute while I was coaching at FDU in New Jersey. Steve and I have stayed in contact. We see each other once a year at the baseball coaches convention. So I shot him a text message this morning. I said, hey, man, this is awesome. Maybe we can get you on the Rome show. So we'll see if maybe we can get a Murray State staffer on the phone here for us to talk about their Cinderella run. Fun fact for everyone that might have forgotten, Ja Morant was actually a Murray State racer before being drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies. Rocky Romanella was a University of Delaware Blue Hen before being drafted by the Rome show to be their every week hockey expert. So when we get back from this quick 1-minute commercial break, the former Blue Hen himself will be on talking about physicality, the Florida Panthers playing all facets of the game, and what the Edmonton Oilers need to do to get even in this series in game number 4. The Rome Show, 12 OZ Sports, broadcasting live on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. I'm Andrew Romanella, and I'll be back after this quick commercial break.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Can't let it go too long. We don't want copy.
Inside the Glass. Hockey with Rocky.
What's going on, everyone? We are inside the glass. My name is TJ Oshie. I just hung him up from the NHL. Go USA Hockey. What's going on, everyone?
TJ, welcome into the program, man. Talk to us about your 16 years in the league.
1,010 games, 695 points, Stanley Cup champion, and world famous for scoring 4 out of 6 attempts in a incredible shootout victory over Russia in the 2014 Olympic Games.
If I am the common hockey fan and I know TJ Oshie, do I know him because he played for the Caps and won a Stanley Cup and played and did the things you just said? Or do I really just know him because of Team USA?
Team USA. That's the only reason TJ Oshie would have ever been on your radar if you were a casual fan. Literally only other reason. I mean, a fantastic player, but I think, and, I think people knew TJ Oshie. I don't think people knew TJ Oshie until he had that incredible performance. And that's why I say, like, that's probably going to be one of the best memories that we have of his playing time.
I would say the same thing for the Kachuk brothers, though it wasn't playing in the same type of Team USA tournament. But think about how many casual fans didn't even realize that those two existed, and now they do.
Yeah, I think those guys probably gained a lot of fans for their respective teams. Like I don't really cheer for hockey, but I'm going to cheer for Panthers because Matthew Kachuk's on it, and I like the way he fought those guys in the Four Nations.
Yeah, while wearing the red, white, and blue. That's right. Rock, before we go deeper into hockey, okay, I obviously referenced your college experience. I was talking about the College World Series in baseball and just want to get your thoughts and your opinions. And if you've watched any of the postseason in either softball, because that one was really entertaining, and or baseball.
I had the Tennessee game on in their super regional a couple nights ago, but as much as I've been following along, I haven't really been watching. I think what I like when I do pay attention is it's just pure baseball. It is pure It is guys just wanting to win. And I do like that part about the College World Series, probably different than any other level. You don't get that same feel when you watch a AAA game.
Yeah, you're
You know,
getting bunts, you're getting steals a home, you're getting guys taking balls in the dirt. There's chippiness, there's excitement when homers are hit, big plays are made. I mean, the amount of time an umpire's got to restrain a team from coming out of the dugout because they're so fired up. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think if I could sit next to the fence with like a bag of seeds and a Gatorade or like a snack and just watch a baseball game, like when I came down to watch the Clones play, that feeling of just baseball is that I don't know, like I don't get that feeling watching other sports. When I stand on the side of the glass in the corner of the rink, I feel like a dad or I feel like a scout. Like I don't feel like that special kindred to the game. But when you sit and watch a baseball game, and I think the College World Series is probably the only venue that gives you that same feel on TV, where you're just watching baseball.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. We'll have to get your opinion later on the House settlement to directly pay players in the NCAA, because I feel like you might have some interesting thoughts on that. We talked about it yesterday. If anybody missed it, the NCAA, the House has settled a nearly $8 billion settlement that will allow NCAA institutions to directly pay the players inside of their programs with something similar to a salary cap of roughly $20.5 million to distribute to your department. If you are not pay your player institution, Rocky, you now are granted as many scholarships as you want or can give on your roster, though there still is a roster limit. Interesting stuff. You have any initial thoughts on that?
So am I allowed to pay someone at the D3 level or the D2
No,
level?
this is only Division One. And I don't even think Division Two. I think it's just a revenue sharing in Division One right now.
And it's revenue sharing on money earned via their participation in a game or their participation in the sales of their merchandise.
And the money made back by the institution on their likeness.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think they probably currently spend, like, if I'm a Division 1 college hockey team and I have the maximum amount of scholarships, I believe the number is 18, and I go to Penn State University. What's 18 times two? I would probably at this point 300 grand in tuition. That's 18 full rides. 18 times three is like 64 million, right? Or it's 6.4 million.
Right.
So I'm paying 6.4 million a year for those kids to go to school today.
Might as well give
And
it to them.
well, think about it. I mean, do you shift? Can I then ask you, Andrew Romanella, I'm going to pay you the equivalent to a full ride. You're going to pay with what I pay you, and then I'm going to hand out my full rides.
So you're saying here is a $100,000 check for your freshman year. Your tuition costs $20,000. You're still going to get a bill in the mail for your $20,000, and what you do with the $80,000 is your choice.
And then, so right, think about it. So now if I'm on a football team, right, I'm going to have all of my grade A standard full ride athletes today. I'm going to pay them whatever much money, right? Because they're worth that much more. But then the guys that I can't give scholarships to, I've now freed up, right? Essentially, because I'm already spending that money. The question is how much money isn't being used today that they're generating? Because someone's going to take a hit somewhere, right? Like if the school is generating $100 million in revenue today and they're not paying any of the players, all of that money is being allocated today. So what is going to get cut from that revenue to pay the players? And then at how much percentage do you get? And then when Alabama pays their players 15% of the revenue, then UCLA is going to have to pay above, right? Because they're only giving 8% of the revenue.
I do think there's going to be rules on that. Like, I think that it's not, I think you can, like salaries, give a certain player a certain amount, but I don't think it's going to fall into a category of this team's giving their players 50% of money. It's really just they have a $20.5 million cap and they can spend it any way they want. That's what it is. So
Well,
they're
I'm going to take. So my point is, I'm going to take $5 million of that cap. I'm going to pay, and I'm going to pay all of the players that aren't good enough to get scholarships, and I'm going to increase my talent pool at the B and C level. And I'm going to pay them the equivalent of a full ride, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, which makes plenty of sense. And I think that is the idea here. We'll talk more about it. Let's get into hockey. Okay. We're here on the Rome Show, 12ouncesports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X and Facebook, actually wired into my own personal Facebook. Awesome stuff. All right, Rocky, the Panthers took a 2-1 lead last night. And in my opinion, it felt dominating. From them scoring the first goal in 3 minutes into the game to winning later on to everything I saw in between. I just feel like that was a toe-to-toe dominant victory from the Panthers. And that was a real, not just a want to win a Stanley Cup Finals game, but almost a little bit of a message of what the rest of the series is going to look like for Edmonton.
Yeah, I think what you saw from Edmonton last night was the fear of that team really more last year than this year, or what you saw in games 1 and 2 and not in game 3. And what you saw in game 3 is kind of what we thought was self-corrected, shaky goaltending and lack of depth. And you got both of those. And and essentially the game was over after the first goal in the first minute because you looked at a Stuart Skinner that was like, dude, this guy's out of position. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then he makes a couple of saves, and the next thing you know, he can't see. He's got no peripheral vision. He's not pushing across side to side. He's not anticipating cross ice passes. And you're like, this guy doesn't have it tonight. And then and that is the one thing that was their biggest downfall, really historically in the Connor McDavid era, is their goaltending and Stuart Skinner. And you saw that last night. And then if you look at, then you pull the onion back a little bit further and you look at, the time on ice, and it's the first time all series that their fourth line doesn't touch 10 minutes of ice. They were averaging 13 and 14 minutes in the first 2 games, which I thought they played great. I thought that series could have easily been 2-0 coming into Florida. And now they're down 2-1. And in reality, I would argue that they could be up 2-1 if the bounces went their way in game 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a great note on the fourth line, because oftentimes it's like, well, your fourth line serves a certain purpose. It's not a goal scoring purpose, though. And when you're playing a team like Florida, who Rocky clearly is more physical, clearly has the advantage defensively, has the advantage goaltending wise, and has the advantage physicality wise. So when those 3 factors are in play, and if you're Edmonton, you're saying, well, we're more finesse than them, we're faster than them, maybe we're more athletic. Okay, great. But if they're laying the body like they're laying, you need some group out there that can change the tone and the tempo for you. And to your point about the fourth line, I've been talking about this a lot in the NBA. How you plan on winning a championship if you don't have players 6 through 10? It's like the example you just tried to make with your NCAA. It's like, well, am I going to pay the 5 best players in the country a total of 10 million, only have 10 million left for the rest of my roster? Or am I going to spread out that money to a greater depth of talent? Maybe the top guy is not as great as the other top guy, but 2 through 10 are, and that can make a difference. And that right there, Rock, I think is the biggest change that needs to go into game 4 if you're the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, and you're seeing really where home ice advantage takes its toll. I mean, the Florida Panthers get the last change, when they're at home. The Edmonton Oilers get the last change when they're at home. And, so as the venues flip-flop, right, you see the uncomfortability, both from the goaltender, then from the ability to get your fourth line on the ice in certain situations, because you're the first person to change. So in certain situations where you might have put the fourth line on in games 1 and 2 because of what Florida put on the ice, you were maybe afraid to put the fourth line on the ice because it was a defensive zone draw or a certain situation. And they counter, and you're afraid of what they're going to counter with, not with what you're attacking with. And so your decision making changes as the coach. And then you look at the game as a whole, there's penalties all over the place. So now your special teams has to win you a game, and quite frankly, you were in the box most of the time.
Yeah, that's right. If you look at the penalty rap sheet, it's like the bullet point of a syllabus when you have like a 5-page paper to write. It's just like line,
Yeah.
line, line. It was crazy.
No, and I think like even past their fourth line depth, the depth that I'm looking for in Edmonton to actually win them games is that middle line depth. Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, Adam Henrique. These are the guys that need to step up. In game one, I thought Evander Kane was outstanding.
He was.
He started on a line with Leon Draisaitl. He assisted on two of the big goals in the game. He was a physical force to be reckoned with. And as you had to shift Draisaitl to play with McDavid, it was really Corey Perry and Evander Kane that were kind of going back and forth, filling that spot that Zach Hyman, typically fills, who's now hurt for the playoffs. And that was great. You fast forward to game three, and you've got Evander Kane. Two really, really bad penalties, right? A cross check, a trip, I think it was, in the first period. And you're like, I can't have that from this guy. Like, if I can't get Trent Frederick and Victor Arvidsson out on the fourth line, I can probably handle it. But when I've got Evander Kane taking bad penalties and putting me in a penalty kill situation when Florida's at home and DJ Khaled is firing up the crowd, which I thought was ridiculous, by the way.
Wild.
You know, like I can't have that from him. So it's not even just the ability to get the fourth line on the ice. I can't have my second and third guys that really need to complement Draisaitl and McDavid if they're going to get shut down. I can't have those guys in the box.
This goes back to 2004 when the New York Yankees brought Jay-Z out onto the field versus the Boston Red Sox. And ever since then, it sporadically showed up. Oh, let's have this singer on the field. What was it last year? Remember there was someone like walking from outfield all the way to home plate.
Well,
I think it was it was Ice Cube, I think.
Yeah, it was Ice Cube at the World Series.
What are we doing?
I know.
But that's besides the point. We're not going to get tangential here. Rocky, is it Picard or is it Skinner game 4 for the Oilers?
Calvin McCart.
Yeah, you're going to make that goalie change, huh?
Absolutely. I think that you had to make it. It was the best thing you did for Stuart Skinner at the beginning of the playoffs because he responded with like back-to-back shutouts.
Yeah, he was elite after that benching.
And it's not that he gave up 5. For me, it's how he gave up the 5.
So what it looks like is almost as more important than if it goes in.
Oh, it looked. I mean, he looked like he didn't have awareness. It looked like he wasn't able to see the ice. And so that is what makes me concerned. And going down 3-1, and you don't want to have to come back from 3-1. You need to win in Florida.
Yeah.
You have to win in Florida.
You're not this Panthers team, Rocky, to your point. Just real quick, they're not going to let a 3-0 series lead go to 3-3 game 7 again. They're not letting a 3-1 series lead.
Listen to this.
No,
here's why I think that the move needs to be extremely drastic amongst your players for Edmonton. And by the way, I don't think he's going to take Stuart Skinner out. I think he should.
Okay.
But listen to Matthew Tkachuk. We played super well and super disciplined, just like a veteran, older team who's been here. This is our third time at it. We know it's a series. We've got to stick up for each other, but be smart too. They literally not only dismantled the goaltending, but they pulled Edmonton so far away from their game that they looked like a mite team or a peewee team.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, slashing and cross-checking and fighting everyone, when at the end of the day, all you're doing is putting Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in vulnerable positions because now they can't play in the game. They're going to be getting cheap shots coming after them when they're out there, and you got no one on the ice to help them out. So, I mean, the way in which Edmonton just completely lost focus last night is why I would want Calvin Pickard to start, to remind the team that, no, we need we need to stay out of this. This isn't our game. We need to beat them with our depth. We need to beat them with our defense, with what we created this year. We can't sink back into playing this on the edge physical team. Stop taking bad penalties. Get back to the game we play, which is fast in transition, hard on the puck, And you're the one who's drawing penalties and taking advantage on the power play. You need to recoup that structure, and I think starting Calvin Pickard sends that message.
In game number 1, Rocky, the Edmonton
Pickard,
Oilers.
Pickard. I keep saying Picard.
It's all right. I mean,
Pickard.
honestly, it's hockey. Like, they got to be used to that, right? So in game number 1, the Oilers won 4-3 in overtime. So the stats get skewed a little bit with the overtime period happening, though it wasn't a really long one. And there were 46 shots against Sergei Bobrovsky from the Edmonton Oilers in game number 1. Now, Rocky, you go to game number 2 for the Edmonton Oilers. They had, I clipped the wrong one again. They had 46 again. They lose that game 5-4 again, double overtime. I got it. I understand how all these things work. But then you go to yesterday's game, to your point, and they had 33 total shots. And in my opinion, none of them were really high volume. None of them were really, man, this is a high opportunity scoring chance. And to me, that just goes to show you how their offense is rolling. And if they've gotten off their game a little bit. So give me your keys now to game 4 for the Oilers to win that very important game 4.
The keys for, well, real quick, before I talk about game 4, what you just articulated is another reason why I'd start Calvin Pickard. Because you're going to outshoot them. You're going to take 46 shots to Sergei Bobrovsky. You're going to score 4 goals against the best goalie in the world. You're going to score 5 goals against the best goalie in the world.
You can't lose those games. Yeah.
How are you going to? You can't lose those games.
That's a good point.
And every time you score a goal, they come back and score on you.
I mean,
that's
like
a problem. It's not. This isn't Stuart Skinner in a vacuum. This is now 7 plus 3. This is 10 games of a sample size where he can't give up less than 3 goals against this team.
Yeah, it's not
So
possible.
you've got to pay attention to that. When it comes to game 4, you've got to go study the matchups. You need to study the matchups, and I would argue you're going to need to keep Draisaitl and McDavid apart from each other, because whatever Florida is doing from a line combo standpoint, and I didn't pay attention to it enough in depth, but whatever they're doing to stymie the to stymie the matchups that they weren't able to produce in Edmonton is what's creating the inability for the puck to get to the net. So you need to figure out a way to counter what they're going to bring you, and you might need to chargle up your lines in order to do so. But if you keep jargling your lines to bring McDavid and Draisaitl together, that alone is shortening your bench. But if that's all you've got, that's not a change that's going to work.
Yeah.
It's not enough firepower. So you either got to figure out a way to create a little bit more balance in your lineup when you're on the road, and then get back to what you like when you're at home. But for whatever reason, you are not able to match what they brought you, and you don't dictate the last change. So you've got to figure out a way to get ahead of that. That would be the first thing I looked at today in the tape, is who are they matching us up against, and how can we alter our lineup to give them something to think about.
When you watch the Panthers play, it feels like, as Kachuk mentioned before when you quoted him, they look like they've been there. When you watch the Oilers in some spurts of these games, it feels like they're almost still trying to figure it out. And you're like, guys, you were here last year. You won 3 of these games last year, despite the way the series was or wasn't. You were 1 win away from a Stanley Cup last year. And I feel like it's almost like in game 95 of their season, there's still an identity crisis that they're trying to figure out.
If I'm the Edmonton, if I'm Florida Panthers, this is my 3rd year in a row, and I found a recipe. I found the recipe that works. My team's makeup, the way we play the game, and the way we distribute our talent and our lines onto the ice is the best in the world right now. I don't have to change my game. I have to continue pressing the gas pedal on my game.
Yeah.
Edmonton can't do that. They can't rest on the laurels of what got them there, because it wasn't good enough to beat them. It wasn't good enough last year. You can't go and be this, no, we're going to beat you with our best. Well, you haven't ever been able to do that. So if you don't go underdog, full court press someone, like you'd seen in basketball in the old days to win a game when you were an undermatched team, right? You've got to go change your tactics a little bit, just a little bit, because you don't have the upper hand. They don't need to change their game. You need to make them change it. So if you don't get anything, if you don't change a tendency that they've seen or expected from you, well, you're going to get the same result. And that's why, and that again, that's why I think they should change the goaltender. That's why I think they got to juggle up the lines. They got to keep Draisaitl and McDavid apart from each other, unless it's on the power play. And they've got to show something to Florida that Florida has never seen from them before.
Yeah, this is the time you go dig into that bag of tricks, that one thing you worked on a bunch at training camp, and you're like, when are we going to use that? Now's the time.
Right? When I'm sitting in the off season, I'm like, maybe this could work. And you're like, nah, don't be crazy. Like, that's for folklore. Like, you're not going to do that. No, you need to go try that now.
Yeah, let's go attempt it. Go fill up a water bottle, put MJ special sauce on it, and that could be the difference for you in game 4. Rock, final thoughts here before the show ends.
I found out that NASCAR is running an in-season tournament, and it completely confused me. But there's 3 qualifying races. They rank the racers 1 through 32, and then over the course of the next 5 races, they have one-on-one matchups, and they have to finish higher than their one-on-one matchup in those races until a winner is crowned.
Wait, that's fire!
It's awesome. I just read.
But they're still racing in the pack of the other 33
it's people. Still a full-on regular race for the regular season, but they're also racing one-on-one to beat that guy in this Challenge Cup, they call it.
The Challenge Cup. And so do they win like money if they win this thing?
Damn. I did enough research to get me this far.
No, that's okay. We'll find out.
Here we go. Winner. Where is it? Oh, I had it. You know what? Oh, $1 million. $1 million in bragging rights for the winner.
Well, and isn't it NASCAR? They're under contract with their team, but they also still get a purse if they place in certain locations.
I have no idea how I have no idea how the money works.
I think there's it's like a hybrid of like a regular sports league and golf, where it's like you get something for winning more than everyone else, but also you're under contract for Rocky Motorsports or whatever the hell.
Listen, I was happy this NASCAR season knowing that I could articulate the playoffs, but now I ran into this in-season tournament. I was like, no, I don't know anything about NASCAR.
That's hilarious. Sounds like they're doing something like basketball did, and based on what we're witnessing in the last 4 years of basketball, 5 years of basketball, it has really, I think, done something great for the sport, both the play-in tournament and then 2 years ago starting the in-season tournament.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All taking pages out of soccer, where you have 4 leagues all simultaneously playing at once.
You have 4 leagues simultaneously playing at once. There's 17 trophies that you want to win. That's the best part.
You can win 3. I mean, in English Premier League football, you can win 3 trophies in 1 season.
Yeah, but you know what? If you think about it, Rocky, they have it right, because outside of the United States of America, that is a number 1 most popular sport, and there's no arguing it. So
yeah. Relegation for life.
Maybe we now, the third step in this thing, we've got the in-season tournaments, we got the play-in tournaments. Now we got to add relegation, and United States of America pro sports are really going to start taking the next step.
I think you're right.
Thank you for coming back on a Tuesday. Electric stuff out of you, Rock. Any last word before you go?
There's a 2-day delay in games 3 and games 4, which is not typical. Your 2-day off is typically the travel day.
Yeah.
However, you're going to play Thursday game 4, and then you're going to play Saturday in Edmonton game 5. We may be talking about who the Stanley Cup champion is on this show next Tuesday.
I agree. And I also think it was stupid of the National Hockey League to do that. My only guess, Rocky, is that because the NBA is playing on Friday.
I don't think it has anything to do with the NBA and the arena scheduling is my guess.
Oh, interesting.
So we could either be teeing up a game 6 next Tuesday and into a game 7, or we will be discussing the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers.
That's wild. Well, I'll definitely be teeing it up on Tuesday, but just in a different way. Rocky Romanella, everybody, thank you so much for your time here on the Rome Show on a Tuesday.
Later.
All right. As we tell you, our resident hockey expert, Mr. Romanella, and it is a blast. Every single time we get some NASCAR in there, we get some NCAA, all of the things. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. as I am every single day on 12OZ Sports. Thank you to you, the listener. Thank you to our resident hockey expert, Rocky Romanella. Go Blue Hens. Oh, wait. That's just where Rocky went to school. Whatever. Back tomorrow morning. Be electric today. Peace.
Thank you for listening.